What's up YouTube? I'm Blake and I've got Apple's new iPad here, released in the US and several other countries on March 16, 2012, and I've also got the iPad 2. In this video I'll be talking about some of the differences and doing some comparing, so let's get started. Now outwardly they're extremely similar, but compared to the iPad 2, the new iPad is actually ever so slightly thicker and ever so slightly heavier, and if we're being technical, the taper on the back is ever so slightly different. But thankfully there are lots of changes on the inside. Let's count them down. Number 1. The new iPad has a Retina display which gives it sharper images and sharper text. The resolution is 2048 by 1536, which is exactly double height and double width of the original iPad and the iPad 2's XGA resolution, 1024 by 768. More on the Retina display in just a bit. Number 2. The new iPad has Apple's new A5X chip with quad-core graphics to power the extra screen resolution, while the iPad 2 has just an A5 chip. Number 3. The iPad 2 supports 3G cellular data networks around the world, while the new iPad supports up to 4G LTE on certain cellular data networks like AT&T and Verizon in the US. Number 4. The new iPad has 1 GB of memory, while the iPad 2 has only 512 megabytes. Number 5, both models have a relatively low-quality front-facing VGA camera, while the new iPad has a 5-megapixel rear-facing iSight camera with improved optics. The iPad 2 has a rear-facing camera that's less than 1 megapixel and takes lousy still pictures. Number 6, the new iPad records 1080p video on the rear-facing camera, while the iPad 2 records only 720p video on the rear-facing camera. Number 7, the new iPad has Bluetooth 4.0, while the iPad 2 has Bluetooth 2.1 with enhanced data rate. And number 8, even though the new iPad has better, more power-hungry components, it also has a better battery, giving it the same 10-hour battery life with 9 hours of web surfing on a cellular data network. Okay, now I wanted to do some comparison of the displays. The best way I could think of to do this was to take some side-by-side close-ups so you can see the detail the Retina display provides. In this first pic you can see this is my games folder. On the iPad 2 the app icons in the folder are very pixelated, but on the new iPad even small details are pretty easy to see. Here's another example of, again, pixelated icons in the folder on the iPad 2, and lots of detail on the new iPad. Here's a sampling of text. You can see why reading is a real pleasure on the new iPad. Fonts are much smoother. And here's white text on a black background. It's how I like to read books and iBooks. Again, very crisp and easy to read. Last, I wanted to compare the backlight bleed on both models. This is how much the backlight is evident when viewing dark screens like watching a movie. Both models suffer from this problem, and in my experience it's to be expected, but in my opinion the new iPad is a slight improvement. But it should be noted that this can vary widely from iPad to iPad, so neither of these pictures is an accurate representation of iPad 2 or new iPads as a whole. Next I'll do a series of side-by-side comparisons starting with a cold boot. I've got the iPad 2 on the left and the new iPad on the right, and I'm going to turn them on at the same time right now. iPad 2 ready to go. And new iPad. I've done this several times and the iPad 2 wins every time. Next, let's run Geekbench on both iPads at the same time. On the left you can see the iPad 2 has an Apple A5 processor at 1 GHz with 503 megabytes of memory. And on the right you can see the new iPad has Geekbench reporting ARM v7 at 1 GHz with 988 megabytes of memory. Let's run them both at the same time now. Alright, you can see the iPad 2 did beat the new iPad with a score of 763 versus 760. It should be noted that the Geekbench test does not measure GPU performance. Alright, next let's just go ahead and open up several games at the same time. Again, you can see I have no other apps running. We're going to open Angry Birds Rio. Plants vs. Zombies, Labyrinth 2 Lite Edition, Dead Space, new iPad did pretty well with that. And the last one, by the way, if you guys don't have this game, it's highly recommended, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery. Now let's open some common websites. I've cleared the history, cookies, and data in both browsers. We'll start with Apple's Start page. Very close. Let's do the New York Times. Almost identical. Yahoo. Very close. And let's do YouTube. Almost a tie as well. So as you can see, the new iPad does not offer a tangible performance gain when it comes to responsiveness and opening most programs. However, I did find an area where the new iPad beat the iPad 2 by a hefty margin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be importing 45 photos off an SD card using the iPad camera connection kit. The SD card is a Class 10 card rated at 20 megabytes per second. I'm going to do an import all, and I'm going to start the stopwatch on my iPhone at the same time. The iPad 2 imported this batch of photos in just under 1 minute and 10 seconds. Now let's do the same exact test on the new iPad. You can see the new iPad imported the same batch of photos in under half the time, just over 32 seconds. The other thing I would have liked to show you in this video is LTE wireless performance, but I don't have LTE service where I live yet. I can say though that Wi-Fi and 3G performance on the new iPad are on par with the iPad 2. That's it for my first video about the new iPad. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, my name is Blake, and thanks for watching.